That was my next question. What brought you to Claremore? You were working for the oil
Well, I was
company.
working for the oil company, and I had taken the bar, and I hadn't heard yet whether I'd passed, but I had graduated from law school, and I'd been invited once to move to Findlay, Ohio, with the oil company, and I turned it down. And but in any event, they took me out of the accounting department and put me in title and lease records, and I was doing, I was not examining titles, but I was examining title opinions and drawing division orders for oil wells. And so I was in title and lease records when I was going to law school after a time, and my division, title lease record division manager for my office called me in one day and he said, "Bill," he said, "you've graduated from law school, haven't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Has anybody talked to you about what they're going to do with you?" He was talking about Marathon Oil. I mean, he was my manager in Marathon Oil. His name was Mr. Carpenter. And I said, "Well, no, nobody's talked to me." And he said, "Well, you need to be knowing what's going to happen." And but nobody said anything to me until I rocked along, and I saw an ad. We'd go from time to time. We'd go back to the law school to check something, and on the bulletin board there was a notice that the law firm in Claremore was looking for someone to come and examine titles, a new lawyer. And it had the phone number and what have you, and nobody was talking to me in Marathon. I was still working, and so I made an appointment because I pretty well given up. I didn't know. I thought I'd probably stay with Marathon. I thought most people who graduated from law school at Marathon who had an accounting background became internal auditors, and they sent them to Findlay, Ohio, and they traveled all over the United States to all these division offices doing internal audits. And nobody said anything to me about it, so I told Carol, I said, "I'm going over and talk to them." And we talked about it, and I said, "I'm going to Claremore on Saturday and talk to him." And so I came over before anybody, even before Mr. Carpenter said this to me. And I talked with Jack Gordon on a Saturday. I went into his office, and there was a guy in there in dirty khakis and wearing a stocking cap with a ball on top. And it was Jack Gordon. And I was all dressed up in a pinstripe suit, got all dressed up for the interview. And we talked, and he invited me to come back the next Saturday and bring my wife so they could meet her. So I got Carol to come with me, and the next week we came over. And I don't think the second week, I don't remember, we talked about it to Jack Gordon or somebody else. It might have been Mr. Vaston, I can't remember. But in any event, we came over, and they hired me, subject to me passing the bar. I had taken the bar, but we didn't have the results yet. And so I went on back, and I was still working. It was going to be some time before we got the bar results, and we needed the money. We didn't have anything. I think I made $400 a month, which is a good salary in those days. Made $400 a month. Carol was teaching. She had a job teaching. She graduated from TU when I did with a Bachelor of Arts and a teaching degree and so forth. So we both were working, and we was going to be some time before I would start earning any money as a lawyer. And in any event, when they hired me at $350 a month and all the business I could bring in, which was not any. Nobody knew me. But in any event, went back, and nobody had said anything to me. And when Mr. Carpenter came in then, after I had told Jack Gordon or Mr. Bassman, whoever I last talked to, that I would be over in June if I passed the bar, and they said, "Okay, we're counting on you." And but it was not yet June, it was several months away, 2 or 3 months, I think. We had to wait some time before we got the results on the bar. And Mr. Carpenter asked me if anybody had talked to me, and I told him no. And he said, well, I'm going to talk to the division attorney. Called him by name. I can't remember his name right now. And he said, I'll talk to him tomorrow. It's not right. You need to know what you're going to do. And I said, well, thank you. And I went back, and that night I went home and told Carol, I said, they're getting ready to find me a job, and I've got one. And I said, I don't want them doing that. I don't feel good about it, but at the same time, I don't want to be running a masquerade. And so I'm going to tell Mr. Carpenter tomorrow that I've taken a job in Claremore if I pass the bar. So I don't want him spending a lot of time trying to help me get a job. They waited too long. They shouldn't. But again, it changed my life. And so
the change in your life was caused by their delay then. The change in your life actually was caused by their delay.
Well, yeah,
in a way, in a sense.
When I told Mr. Carpenter that, he said, well, I thought you might go into practice anyway. And he said, I'll tell the division attorney. And I got a call from the division attorney in a day or two, and he said, you don't want to go there at Claremore and hang out your shingle. You don't want to do that. He said, we don't have anything right now, but he said, the attorney for Amarada Head, he's a good friend of mine. I'm going to call him. And he was a teacher. He taught oil and gas law, and I knew him, and he knew me, and he knew I was a good student. And he said, I'm going to call him and see if he wants, you don't need to be going over there practicing law, hanging out your shingle and practicing law. And I said, well, no, don't do that. I'm going to go. I told him I'd be there, and I'll be there. And I said, I'll miss you guys, and I really intended to, but nobody's saying anything to me about it. So I went ahead and if I pass the bar, I'm going to go. And so that's the way. That's how I did not stay with Marathon. It wasn't a selection that I made. It was one that somebody else didn't make. And it brought me to Claremore. And again, it's when I told you a while ago, a lot of the things that happened to me that brought me to become a practicing trial lawyer were things that I didn't really head for. They were things that were dropped on me, and I was very inward myself. I'm a very I'm not a really a lot of outgoing person, and I never thought I would try lawsuits. I thought when they hired me to come help Mr. Bassman examine titles, and I did. I examined hundreds of titles for the first year and a half or 2 years, and then somebody asked me to defend a lawsuit for him or something, and I said, well, I told them I had never done that. And well, they trusted me, and they wanted me to do it anyway.